Hi everyone, it's Shari here from SimonsSaysStamp.com with another card idea using the Holiday Card Kit 2013 inspired by Tim Holtz. I've come up with a fun inking technique using my block and the distress inks that are included in the kit. So here I'm just applying some Evergreen Bough to my Lawn Fawn block. Once I have the ink down, I can add a little bit of water, and you can use the mini mister that's in your kit, or here I'm using my big bottle that I use for my art journaling. I want to make sure that all my ink is covered with some water so the drips are a little bit bigger. And once I have that ready, I can flip it over and put it on my paper. I am using the Tim Holtz watercolor paper that's also included in the kit. And so here I've flipped my block over and I'm just pressing that ink into the paper. And using the block allows me to put color in specific areas. So where the areas are wet, now I can go ahead and drip this around. And once I'm done, I can go ahead and shoot it with my heat gun. It doesn't take much time, just go ahead and dry that off. Now that I have my evergreen bough where I want it, I will start using the iced spruce, and I'm going to go ahead and dry up a couple of those little drips first. So the iced spruce is a little grayer color. Love this color combination together. And again, I'll go ahead and just press that pad right onto the block. And I want a little bit smaller area for this, so I'll go ahead and wipe off some of that with just a rag. And again, once I have my ink on my block, I can go ahead and spray that with some water and flip that over and go ahead and press that down onto my paper. And I do like to let this sit in a little bit so it just gets really good into that paper. And allow that to drip a little bit, move it around, and I can go ahead and pull that off so it's at the edge as well. And then once I'm happy with that, I can go ahead and dry it with my heat tool. I wanted to do something a little bit different on this card and create a collage. So here I have the medium tag from Simon Says Stamp, and I've die cut a portion of a strip of paper, so I'll use that for negative space, and also for the positive space, a lighter piece of paper. I'll be doing some embossing on my strips here, and so here I'm just using my powder tool for my anti-static for my embossing powder. I've also tacked down my strips onto a piece of paper so that they don't move around, and I have everything positioned how I want them on the card. So I'm using my Versamark ink to ink up my message really well. I'll go back over it a few times, and once I'm ready I can go ahead and position this onto my little arrangement here and make sure that I have it really squared off before I press it down, and once I'm ready I can go ahead and stamp that onto those cardstocks. I'll be keeping everything on my sheet of paper when I go to do the embossing so that it doesn't shift around as well. And so here I'm just grabbing my silver embossing powder, and I can go ahead and just sprinkle that onto my pieces of paper. And then I can go ahead and tap off the excess, and I have a piece of paper underneath that catches the powder. I can put it back in the jar. And so once I have that really well covered, I can go ahead and use my heat tool, and I do go in circular motions till that heats up, and then you can start to see the silver emboss. I have cut a little tiny green piece here, and I've also attached that down to the bottom of the paper, and I've stamped my message, and I'm just using my silver embossing powder once again. Make sure that I have that well covered. The little green strip will just give me a little bit more interest in my little collage. I'll be stamping the same message onto my watercolor background, so here I'm using my powder tool to make sure that I don't have any of the extra powder stick onto that paper. And again, I'm using my Versamark ink and inking up the message, making sure I get that really well covered. I'm using the smooth side of the watercolor paper, so it's a little bit easier to stamp on. So here I'm just lining this up, making sure I have it square because I do want it to match up with those little pieces that I've already stamped. So I'll give this a really good press, make sure I get it into that paper really well. And once again, I'll grab my catch sheet and my silver embossing powder and sprinkle that over really well. Tap off the excess, and now you can see where that's all caught onto the message. And then I'll go back in again with my heat tool and heat that up until it's really nice and shiny. I really love the combination of the evergreen bough, the ice spruce, and then also some black for really strong contrast, and plus the silver embossing. So here I'm just using the rub-ons, and I'm just kind of adding words here and there. I'm going randomly around, but I want to go around my embossed image and not over it. So I'm just using really small images at this point. I'll be adding a couple other of the rub-ons up and down. I do like that there's vertical words and stars. And then a few onto that strip of green paper so that I have some black onto that as well. The remnant rubs are really great. You can add just pieces and parts of words and messages and some of the imagery for the background. I've done a little bit of assembly and now I'm adding some finishing touches with some of the remnant rubs, and I found that the word wish fits right into this little corner here, so I'll go ahead and finish putting this on. I'll lift this off and you can see how this panel is starting to look. I can go ahead and put this onto some other cardstock and start adding my final touches with the trimmings from the kit. Here's a final look at my card. I've added some tinsel and a tiny paper clip and also some mirrored stars. I hope I've given you some inspiration for the Holiday Card Kit 2013 inspired by Tim Holtz. Thanks for watching.